We welcome Mr. Michael Byrden, Business Development and Strategic Partnership from Vanderbilt Industries. Mr. Michael, welcome to the stage. Please proceed with your presentation.
Thanks, Amir. I hope you can see that screen now.
Yes, you are live and active.
That's great, thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Michael Byrden. I'm Strategic Partnerships and Business Development Manager for Access Control for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, for those of you who don't know, is part of the ACRE group, and it's a conglomerate of security companies based out of the USA with offices pretty much all over Middle East, Africa, Europe. That's a global business. Comnet is another part of the business also, which is a manufacturer of audio, video, and data Ethernet communications devices. But today, I'm going to talk to you about one of our access control products. It's called the ACT product range, and a installation that we have done with our system integrators in Dublin, Ireland. The site is in St. James's Hospital. So just a little bit about, for those of you who don't know anything about the ACRE group, as I mentioned, it's a conglomerate of many different companies in the security space. So a lot of these companies are almost household names within our sector, but I think most notably in Europe, the Siemens acquisition happened in June 2015. So with that, a lot of brands that many of our European colleagues will be very familiar with, including Siemens CPaaS brands and the SPC intrusion brand. So in 2016, Vanderbilt acquired ACT, and I'm going to talk to you about that access control range right now. So a little bit of background about the ACT range. As I mentioned, it was acquired by Vanderbilt in 2016, but the company actually has a very long tradition in access control. In fact, it was founded in 1996, so well over 20 years now, going on 25 years of experience in manufacturing access control solutions. The company was founded in Ireland and very quickly became a market leader in that space, and involved in many sectors, pretty much all of them. I think if we look at the key ones, obviously, that we're going to talk about today is the health sector. And we're very prominent, and we have a lot of prestigious sites in that area. Across Europe, we have many government sites in the Nordic region, for example. Another big area for us is education. So university campuses, student accommodation type environments. So what have we been doing since we were acquired by Vanderbilt? Effectively growing the business and moving the ACT brand throughout Europe. We've been very successful in growing the brand rapidly across Europe, Middle East, Asia, Africa, and the APAC region. So it's been a great success story. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the product and why it's been successful. So the project I'm going to talk to you about today is St. James's Hospital. It's the largest hospital in Ireland. It's continuously expanding. Right now, there's a €2 billion expansion going on. So there are many hospitals within this hospital. There are 4,500 or 4,600 staff members. That number keeps changing every time I look at it. 865 beds, 50,000 emergency attendings per year, 15,000 visitors. So it's a very expansive site. The population of this site is expected to double over the next 3 years. So it's a really challenging environment, and it's quite interesting. That's why I'd share the dynamic of what we're doing in that environment right now. So the challenge that we have in this environment, I suppose, the system is not just looked at in terms of a silo, in terms of just security. The challenge that we had when the client came to us is that they wanted to integrate the IT resources, obviously electronic security, and some of the operational applications that they were using. So it was very much an integration system from the very start. And we had to look at ways that we're going to do that. For example, if you have 4,500 staff members, you have a high rate of churn there in terms of people coming and going. Access rights are continuously changing. So the client wanted us to integrate with their HR system so that if somebody was a new employee and, for example, they were part of the pharmacy department, firstly, when they put them onto that person onto the HR system or the payroll system, that would automatically update the access control system with their access rights. And if the person left the business, it would take them off the system so they could never gain access again. So this is a very critical part of the business because we can't have somebody physically or manually managing this number of people on a daily and weekly basis. So that whole onboarding process is now integrated with the access control system. They wanted an access control system that was intuitive, that could integrate with the intrusion system. So if we had a breach of security through the access system, we could trigger alarm events. We could record and view video events that go with that. And then I suppose the last part of this puzzle was the operational expectation. There are a lot of other systems within the clinical environment in the hospital, including vending for PPE equipment, for example. They've got patient monitoring systems, blood transfer systems. So there's a whole heap of opportunities there in terms of integrations. And we got to working with the client and see if we would help them out on that to our platform. So just in terms of hardware, I thought I would explain, although a lot of today's discussion is about software integrations, at the crux of our offering is hardware at the end of the day. So the structure for the ACT solution is a single door, single controller solution. So one door, one controller, it's IP at the door. We have a number of different offerings in terms of controllers, some with power supply, some without power supply. In fact, on this project, there was a very large emphasis on PoE controllers. So we have a PoE Ultra controller, which is a really significant game changer if you have a PoE environment. With that, we also have MyFair DeskFire readers. For those of you who have been attending other presentations over the last few days, there's been a lot of exposure on that, and certainly our readers are very flexible in that, and also have the OSDP options. We have a very scalable system. It can be from one door up to 4,000 doors, just using this very simple hardware architecture. And I just thought I'd share with you how easy that is and what that looks like. So going back to the various applications, the challenge was to have a single card solution, not just for access control, but for vending, parking. They have a PPE disposal system. So when a clinician or a doctor or nurse wants to get PPE equipment, that system is now controlled through an electronic vending system. We also have a visitor management solution in there. So the whole structure on the site was about a single card solution, not just for access control, but for many different applications. And I think with the DeskFire, MyFair cards, it offers security and negates the possibility of cards being cloned and people getting access to all these many different applications. And it also offers them this solution to have an encrypted card that gives them lots of opportunities to use them. So that was the first touching base in terms of the integration. So we went for that technology. So moving on to the ACT system, the challenge was the amount of doors and the amount of events. So right now the system is 600 doors. That's growing. That's due to double over the next 3 years with expansions. There are over 100,000 events per day. So with that amount of events, it's very difficult to manage and have somebody looking at that. So what we try to do is we try to create integrations with third-party integrations. And these are products that we don't make, but we make the access control system the core of the security system. We integrate with CCTV, wireless locks, intrusion, HR, venting, as I've already spoken about. So that was the premise in terms of the solution, that the access control kind of becomes the front end, and what we do and what the security managers within this environment do is they manage alarm events, and with the system is very intuitive, and I'm going to show you how they manage that. So at a very high level, I suppose what we can do is with our tiered mapping structure, we can look at the system as a whole. I know it's difficult to see this map in a small detail, but at various different spaces on the map, there are doors and there are cameras. And so what the operator can do is he can look at it from a very high level. So if there was an alarm event at any space or any area within the hospital, this map would click up onto the screen, and where the area is, you would see the flashing. You can also have an audio event at that point. And then when the operator clicks on the event, they can elect what to do. If it's a intrusion event, they can disable a panel to stop the alarm going off. If it's an access event, they can lock or unlock a door and control that door. So that is the kind of starting point. And then we can start drilling down. When we click on a region, it can bring us to another map and we get a closer look. So when we have people, when you've got very large sites, people might not be very familiar with the site. So it allows security guards and security operators to identify exactly where the problem is. And if they're talking to their colleagues, they can tell them exactly where to go in terms of the system, in terms of fixing the problem, or if it's a security event, it gets them to the event really quickly. So that's the kind of premise, and that's a really good starting point. So we mentioned at the very start that we have this solution for, it's called a rules engine. And effectively what this solution does is it allows you to create events, inputs and outputs. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have security managers, access granted in a lockdown group. And we say, right, what we want to find out is if some people from this region come into a certain amount of doors, the system is going to trigger an alarm, and it's going to send an email to the security guide to say we have an intrusion or we have an access infringement in a certain area. And that can trigger certain events. So it can send emails, it can trigger relays, it can trigger any kind of output that you want to happen once it's onto the system. This system is infinitely adjustable to whatever the client requires. And this is all done within the ACT access control environment. So it's a really fantastic way of doing it. All of these things are probably possible within other access control solutions, but we designed this very unique front-end solution to make it a really simple and intuitive rules engine, we call it, to make the end user experience a lot easier. One of the features in this is called lockdown. So in this environment in the hospital, or in the hospital, if you wanted to lock down a certain amount of doors for whatever amount of reason, all the doors in this area would lock automatically. So the system is very flexible in that respect. Just conscious of my time here. There's a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but some of the other things that we've recently introduced in the hospital is in a COVID environment. What we're finding is there's a lot of touchless devices. So people do not necessarily want to touch or be in physical touch. So we recently launched a Bluetooth enabled application, which is part of our ACT solution, which allows users to now use their phones to get in the door. So I know that's really enabling the solution a lot faster, and it's also allowing visitors to use their phones, so we don't have to actually give them cards when they're coming to the hospital. our previous speaker actually had some very interesting points in terms of facial recognition, and coincidentally, we've used the ZK facial recognition devices, and we've integrated them within our ACT platform. They have a number of options, not just in terms of facial recognition, but we can do some skin temperature screening and some face mask verification. So as you can imagine, these are pretty important solutions in a hospital environment particularly, and we've done a very neat integration into that solution. So some of the other things, just I'll briefly mention, are the managed access control. So within any environment within the ACT solution, you can limit areas or limit the amount of people that have access to an area. Again, we're finding not just in a hospital environment, certainly in a COVID environment, that we need to manage the amount of people that come into an area over a particular period of time. And within the ACT solution, we can limit or we can put a cap on the amount of people who have access to a region. And if we go back to our rules engine, if that number is exceeded, we can then send a message to the security manager or to the operations manager to say, you know what, we've already, we've an infringement, there's too many people in that room. Or if we're a little bit forward thinking, we can stop the person from actually getting in there in the first place. One of the other things that we've introduced is a contact trace report within the ACT solution. Again, very current and very topical, that if we have somebody identifies with COVID, we can run a very quick report to say, well, what other people have been in that area and how do we communicate with those people? So it's very responsive, and it's a very proactive software application that allows these things to happen very quickly.
Michael,
yeah,
we have just entered the time slot for Q&A.
Okay.
Shall we continue with? We have just two more questions on our side. You can proceed with one or two more slides, and then we can ask questions. Is that okay with you?
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I just thought I'd share with you. I mean, I spoke about a lot of the integrations that we do. I just thought I'd share with you some of the brands that we integrate with. A lot of them are global brands, as Vanderbilt is a global company. But a lot of them are available in most of the regions, and very happy to talk about those integrations. And I just thought I'd finish the presentation with just a quote from the guy who runs the whole system. And he says, the ACT access control solution provides St. James's Hospital operational efficiencies that go far beyond the traditional security systems. So I just thought I would want to really leave you with that message and not just take it from me, but this is what our clients are saying. So that's the end. It'd be really welcome to hear some questions, Amir.
Thank you, Michael, for this extremely useful information for our audiences. We pinpointed two questions. I believe that you can answer them really quickly and efficiently as well. You discussed the many integrations that connect ACT access control. Who does the integration on site? Is that Vanderbilt or the particular system integrator?
Very good question. It tends to be the system integrator because there are a number of different companies at stake. The system integrator tends to be that person. But I would mention that the ACT system has an API which allows all the various different systems to be integrated to and with. So if you take the HR integration, for example, and the onboarding system, the ACT database is integrated using the ACT API. Also with the video integration, we're also using the ACT API. So the API tends to be the central feature to that, and we allow third-party companies to integrate into that. But in general, it's us and the system integrators using the API together.
Understood. To follow up on the particular matter, can you tell us more about who have integrations with in the security sector?
Yeah, very good point. I think that if we go back to the my previous slide, within the security sector at a very high level, our VMS platform would be Milestone. We do a lot of great work with those guys on projects. And then in the video space, we have they tend to be global brands like Hanwha, Dahua. They would tend to be the type of companies that we would integrate with. And as I mentioned already, on the biometric, it tends to be, again, household names, like I said, KTECO. So we're very open to integrations. A lot of it is global, but we have some very really tight-knit ones which are more local, and they might vary from country to country.
Michael, thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
All the best.